why are we still here? Just to suffer? So that's the entire point of this. And I can't promise you that these will be shows or movies that you haven't seen before, because I'm not original like that. If you're wondering if I have any sort of criteria for this list, these movies or these shows made me sit back and think about like my life, my problems, my experiences, and just question, what the is going on? What is going on? Why are we even here? As if we don't have enough of that already in the world. No, apparently in my mind, it's not enough. We also need to fill our media with the exact same questions that we have every day just by existing. These are shows that really just made me feel some type of way. And also just kind of scares the living shit out of me, because a lot of the themes of these shows are obviously going to be about society because we live in one. I've heard. I mean, it's a rumor. That's the goal of today, is for me to recommend at least one of these shows that will alter your brain chemistry. I'm trying to think right now if like there are any trigger warnings or content warnings for any of these shows. There probably are a ton. Obviously, there's going to be some graphic content in here. Some of these shows also involve probably like some pretty heavy themes of like mental health. And we'll start with like one that's pretty popular so that we could just get that out of the way. That would be Fight Club.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can. Why?
I feel ridiculous every time I mention that I like this show, because there's almost like a little bit of guilt in talking about the fact that I actually really like this movie. Like, Fight Club isn't unique to the experience of people using this movie as a reason for, like, to justify their behavior and their beliefs. So what I want to talk about with Fight Club and why it's included in this list in the first place, I remember when I watched Fight Club for the first time, I was really young. Actually, let's exclude the very, very first time because it like flew right over my head. I had no idea what the was going on. My understanding was that Brad Pitt and then muscles and then men fighting. Then I grew a little bit older, started to understand that like, oh, it's about being strong and about masculinity. And then in my 20s, I watched it again, and then it became a story about consumerism. And then now, in my recent watch of about 2 days ago, I started to question if Marla was even real. Oh, there are going to be spoilers, by the way. Hold on. Come back. Don't exit out of the video. No. I'm going to try to like not put any spoilers in this. Maybe light spoilers. Earlier, I said, I don't even know if fucking Marla was real. And honestly, from there, I started questioning if any of it was real. But yeah, there were certain things that happened in Fight Club that made me question the existence of all of the characters and the entire story to begin with. Like, okay, I'll start here. For the uninitiated, right? For those of you that have only ever seen Fight Club in memes, you know, insert joke here about me breaking the first 2 rules of this movie. It's about a guy that has insomnia. So he develops an addiction to attending cancer support groups for men that had testicular cancer. For some reason, because he started to connect with these people on what in his mind feels like a very spiritual, personal, intimate level, he started sleeping better. And then from there, his addiction develops into starting a club for men where they meet at nights and then they fight each other. So much of this movie, like if you guys have ever seen American Psycho, there were so many scenes within this movie that felt way too fantastical, way too out of the ordinary, impossible to have happened. Like, how did they pull off some of this? This is probably one of the earliest memories I have of hearing Where Is My Mind, which is such an apt, just such a beautiful piece of music to be playing the credits to. His character might have had testicular cancer or something, and maybe there's something like demasculization, if that is a word, because, you know, Bob with the tits and the amount of times of like just threats to cutting his balls off, and then you want to try and bring back your masculinity by being in this anarchist group of men that are just like trying to break the system because they themselves are broken. So yeah, I urge you to revisit that movie and watch it again and kind of see it for maybe what it is, maybe what it isn't. I am Jax. Moving on to the next item on this list. Triangle of Sadness.
Balenciaga. Balenciaga.
I sell shit.
I found out that he sells fertilizer. So yeah, he's not lying. He does sell shit. And this is one of those movies where the theme is like, f the Rich. It's one of those satirical movies that kind of make fun of people's status and like how out of touch money can make you. Why is it an existential crisis type of movie? Well, it's because in the third act of this movie, there are things that happen in there that kind of like, this movie is genuinely one of the funnier satires I've seen. And that's excluding like The Menu, which is also really fucking good. But it has the same theme, I guess, of like just making fun of the rich. How quickly all of that can go away.
What? You say no to me?
No.
Oh, so it's yes.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
The plot of Triangle of Sadness is that it is about like a group of people that are, it's a cruise ship. That's the word I was looking for. And then the cruise ship goes under. There are Filipinos on board and they are at the lowest level of the ship as like caretakers, maids. And the Filipino actress here, Dali De Leon, oh my god. Dali De Leon, insane in this movie. Just she popped off. The third act, it just goes in a direction I did not expect, and that kind of goes for a lot of the movie, to be honest. It's excellent like writing and acting. So the next movie that I want to mention about existentialism and everything that comes with that is obviously Everything Everywhere All at Once. Everything Everywhere All at Once tells the story of this family that you see right here. It's about the multiverses that we live in and how every decision that we make, mostly Evelyn, because she's the protagonist of this, every decision that she makes creates a rift in the universes, wherein a different universe exists where she took a different path and a different choice. For me, when I watched it, is that it's about nihilism and trying to find meaning in everything that you do. It's about love, and it's about a tumultuous relationship between a mom and a daughter, which is something that I obviously do not relate with. Also like an Asian mom and an Asian daughter, which is like its special kind of, like it just hits you right where it twists you. This movie goes insane in the best ways possible, and the transitions are so smooth between one scene to the next. It's also very funny. There's a lot of heart to it. You start to care about these characters. Every time I think about Waymond, I just want to cry, because I always feel like we all need a Waymond. Fantastic, perfect person that is just the personification of kindness and love and choosing to see the positive in things. I watched it and I did have like a crisis of the existentialism nature. However, there was also like, it wraps it up really nicely in this message of like, because there are people that choose to still see the good in other people, that still choose to have faith and to give love despite all of the mishaps, because life kind of feels like it's horrible, and then there's like a speck of like happiness, and then it's horrible again, and then like, you know, as if happiness is like ephemeral. Is that the right word? Ephemeral. Like it doesn't last. It means lasting for a very short time. Yeah. Ephemeral. Got it. So, you know, what does that mean? It could mean that like, is it all, you know, that none of it is really worth it? Because if it takes this much to get to this amount of happiness, then is it really worth it to live? Or it could also mean, then that means that you should treasure those little moments, those little specks more so, because they don't come very often, but they do come. So like, just go through the cycle until you get to the next one, because that's what we're all just trying to do. Just because like things are random and just because nothing matters doesn't mean that nothing fucking matters, if that makes sense.
Very busy today. No time to help you.
Since we're moving on to the shows, we're gonna stick with like the whole like people finding each other and then loving and whatnot with this show called Normal People.
You know, when we were together in first year of college.
Normal People is about these two characters, Connell, and why are they half naked in this? And this is Marianne. So it follows Marianne. I'm just gonna read this. Follows Marianne and Connell from different backgrounds, but the same small town in Ireland as they weave in and out of each other's romantic lives. I mean, yeah, that's way better than I would have described it, which is just like two people that just can't get rid of each other. I went through so many ups and downs with this show. The reason why this made me question my existence and like what's going on, there were moments where the characters were kind of doing that. And obviously, as I started to care more and more about them, I I'm an empath, so like I started to feel what they felt. There were conflicts between Connell and Marianne that really felt very human. Because I know that officially, right, Marianne is written as a neurodivergent character. I haven't read the book, so I'm not sure like what those differences are. You usually are following one person. You know, if they haven't seen each other for a while and we're only watching it from Connell's perspective, the next time that we do see Marianne, there's the same feeling of like, oh wow. Like you feel like you haven't seen them in a while, actually. It's also about like trauma and like what people go through and them just wanting to live boring lives, which I relate to that so much. It's definitely one of those shows, if I were to like vibe check it myself, very slow burn. There were moments where it feels like kind of just like life, where like nothing's really happening and then suddenly everything's happening all at once. You know, as they grow up and become adults and they start questioning more and more what it is that they're meant to be doing and what it is that they're meant to be finding, when like every attempt that they've had, they kind of just end up with disappointment. Like I'm betraying the show if I were to just call it a love story, because I feel like there's so much more that happens. I think that, you know, when two people are growing up and they manage to stay in each other's lives and watch each other change over time and become these different versions of the people that they're meant to be or whatever, and choosing to come back together, there's something really special about that. And it's not just romantic. It's not just that they're soulmates. I feel like it's something bigger. And that's what Normal People made me feel. Because it's really just like a story about two people just trying to get by. The others here, I forgot to mention. I think Fight Club is on Netflix, not Canada, Australia. It's not on all of the Netflixes, unfortunately. Everything Everywhere All at Once is on HBO, like I showed you earlier. I have it on HBO Go, which is Asian HBO. I don't know if it's on HBO Max, but Normal People is on Hulu. Triangle of Sadness you can rent on Amazon. The next show that I want to talk about is called Years and Years.
Things were okay a few years ago.
Like I randomly saw someone recommend it on TikTok, and then they gave like a brief synopsis of what it was about, and then I got interested in it and I watched it, not knowing what the fuck I was getting myself into. I am delighted to have watched this show. Am I delighted? I am. It's really it creeped me the fuck out. Is it a horror show? No, it's not. This is a 6-episode show. It has 1 season, and I think that's about it from what I understand. And it follows this family. They're called the Lyons family from the years of 2019 to 2034. Another way that I would describe this, and I put it in my notes, is like Black Mirror but with politics. And that's essentially what it is. It's kind of the same way as like The Handmaid's Tale was kind of petrifying, because it begs the question, like, how did society become the way that it is now? And the answer is gradually. It talked about so many things that mirror today's society, and this show came out in 2019. There's an episode in here, Grandma Lyons gives this monologue at some point in the show. I forgot if it's the last episode or the second to the last episode, but it like puts you in your place. It's a lot to take in. A lot of the show, a lot of Years and Years is just like the bleakness of the future. Another thing that's relatable in this show is like the amount of times that so many characters just go, I don't know. Because yeah, who the really knows? And then that also connects to Everything Everywhere All at Once, where Waymond, I don't know why I'm using Years and Years to quote Waymond, but I remember Waymond saying, kindness is of the utmost importance, especially during times where we don't know what's going on. We have made it to the last part of the last show of this list, which I feel like is really appropriate because it is The Last of Us.
You haven't seen the world, so you don't know.
If you aren't watching The Last of Us starring Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, you're probably doing yourself a favor. It's a lot of emotional distress that really is unnecessary. It is another like zombie post-apocalyptic based like plot, but what makes it so different, and this is probably something that you've heard time and time again, is because it is about people and it is about empathy. It's always kind of been sort of like that in the game, but what the show does best is it enhances these backstories into fleshing out these characters. It takes you throughout their days, whether that be just a few hours ahead of an incident or years prior. Also, as I'm recording this on a Monday for me in the Philippines. So I am well aware that the last episode for The Last of Us season finale is probably already out on HBO. No, I have not seen it. I know it's going to make me emotional. I'm probably going to cry. Update on that later. I will watch it and then end this video with my thoughts on it. The first time I saw this, obviously, was I watched a bunch of playthroughs. And it meant a lot to me because I'd never seen a game that really invested so much in the storytelling and building a relationship between characters, which the game successfully was able to do. Even the second game, which I feel has like divided so many fans, I personally really like it, and I'm excited to see what the showrunners are going to do with the second game, if they are trying to save that for the second season. I'm going to try to not spoil it if you guys haven't seen playthroughs of the second game. And also because, because potentially it could spoil a second season. And so far, the show, The Last of Us, has been pretty loyal to the game. And I think also it helps the fact that there is a huge gap between the release of the game and the release of the show. Because I watched the playthroughs of this game religiously. I knew every detail and every little like joke when I first watched the playthroughs of the game. I never played it myself. I think that gap in between is pretty helpful because I don't feel like I'm watching the same thing all over again. There are like some major changes that I feel like the show did pretty well. I think they did it smartly, like the whole thing about spores, right? Like there's an element in the game where the virus can be airborne through spores. So they removed that entirely in the show. And what they did was instead they added these vines, or what are they called? They're like veins throughout the city that if you step on one, it'll awaken a horde somewhere. Why does it make me question my existence? Well, come on. It also kind of talks about like you finding a meaning to survive every day. You finding meaning to wake up every morning and do what you do. There are also like a lot of like ethical, moral dilemmas being posed by The Last of Us. All of which like really for me, watching this, like it humanizes so much of like let me start crying. I don't know how else to describe it. It's quickly become like a comfort show to me. The Last of Us is just something that I want to put on. Sometimes I put it on before I go to bed. I just feel a lot of comfort in it. I don't know why. I think if I were to venture a guess, it would probably be because of Joel and Ellie, and their relationship makes me feel safe. I am somehow already halfway through the show. I don't know what happened. I blinked and then here we are. You know what? Not even light spoilers. There will be spoilers here. This is the finale. I cannot show you the actual show for obvious reasons, but I will be showing you my reaction to probably the last few minutes. Spoilers ahead for the season finale. The actress who plays Ellie in the game, she plays Ellie's mom here. I'm getting goosebumps again. Just hearing her voice. Not realizing until now that Bella Ramsey and that actress actually do look alike. She does look like Ellie. And then she ends up giving birth while killing the infected.
Sarah died. And I couldn't see the point anymore.
So time heals all wounds, I guess.
I don't know about that.
It wasn't time that big.
No, Joel, don't. That's so much to put on a kid. I'm sorry. I know that Ellie's been through so much already, and that in and of itself is too much for a kid, but that's also kind of too much for a kid. That's also kind of a lot. The way that he is looking at her in this breaks my goddamn fucking heart. For most of those 8 episodes, we just see Joel protecting himself so much, trying his best not to be attached to anyone or anything. Because even with Tess, I feel like his whole relationship with Tess, even that, I don't think that he really fully opened up to her. All of that time that he spent trying his best to live without any of these connections or anything that can slow him down so that he could never feel that pain with Sarah ever again. All of that is gone here in this fucking moment, in this fucking look that he's giving Ellie right now. Jesus Christ, I've never seen 2 people more in need of a hug.
He thinks it could be a cure, Joel. Cordyceps grows inside the brain.
It does.
Unhook her. How did you get in here? I said unhook her. I won't let you take her. Unhook her.
It's not too late. Even now, even after what you've done, you can still find a way.
It's Joel once again in a position where he is carrying his child. That fucking gets me every time. He's carrying his kid once again, and he's about to run to safety, but one person stands in the way.
You just come after her.
Oh, wait.
Look, sometimes things don't work out the way we hope. But if you just keep going, you find something new to fight for.
Swear to me that everything you said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
And if anyone would just allow me to go in a really, really teeny tiny Joel rant. This rant has lived in my heart for as long as I first watched the playthrough of this game and is now being unearthed once again because of this show. And just kind of reason with why I think Joel did the right thing. I think he did the right thing by saving Ellie because the wording that Marlene chose, what she said in the show is that I think they could make a cure, right? There was never any guarantee. This is a shot in the dark for the Fireflies and for all of humanity. And Joel is now being put in the position of having to give up once again someone that he cares about like that. Like he's never cared about anyone in his life the way that he has for Ellie, not since his daughter. And he has to give that all up on a maybe. And on top of that, we also are meeting Joel years after he's probably already lost all of his faith in humanity. Even his daughter didn't die because she was infected. She died because of reckless orders being given to a soldier. This is the humanity that Joel is being asked to save. Additionally, by the end of this episode, there is a focus on Ellie after she asks Joel to swear that everything that happened, quiet now, that everything that happened back there at the Fireflies headquarters is exactly as he told her. And when Joel promised that yes, that is the honest to God truth, you can tell that Ellie knows. She's obviously a little bit critical of what is happening. She knows Joel at this point. Like she could practically finish his sentences. So obviously she can kind of tell when something is off, when he's not telling her the entire truth. I mean, for half of their journey, all he did was lie to her. So I think that in that moment, both of them did make a choice. Ellie was able to make a choice there a little bit because she knew something was up and that wasn't the entire truth, but she accepted it. And you can tell by like the look on her face. And that's something that needs to be focused on because I think there's a lot of stress in how choices were being made for Ellie by other adults. And that's not just Joel, that's also Marlene. And also, if I were to make like a huge stretch of an assumption for Joel's character, and again, take this with a grain of salt because this is just my own, it could be considered headcanon. Joel in that moment thought that the best way that Ellie could make this decision is after she has a childhood. It can't be one that is made in a split second and under so much pressure. So maybe there's also, on Joel's part, an attempt to give her a childhood, to give her some semblance of what is normal and what is appropriate for her age before she finds out the truth. Obviously, I don't think that everything that Joel did in that hospital was good. Like he massacred everyone without a single thought. We are watching this from Joel's perspective, so we can only really see him as a protagonist. But in reality, is he though? Like, if we know Joel from any other perspective of any other character in that game, especially the ones that have been affected by the people that he killed, Joel is a villain. The interesting thing about this show that I really like is it's about empathy and it is about people, but it doesn't put empathy in the best light all the time. When you are operating about your life and you're trying to survive and trying to hold on to the things that matter the most to you, does empathy make things worse sometimes, especially when it means trying to look out for yourself and the people that you love? It's a question that doesn't have one correct answer. The motivation to keep going is reliant on like why of like, why are you getting up in the morning? Why do you protect people? Why are you still alive today? And that's why this show gives me an existential crisis.